But in a Soviet society, manual labor is presumed to be romance of the highest order, and the children of School 6 are taught to work with their hands. In the Soviet, neither conscience nor public opinion permit anyone to be idle. This manual labor is intended to inculcate a sense of the dignity and the excitement of work. The children learn a sort of rugged collectivism for the building of the communist society. They are taught that every citizen has a responsibility to care for public property. Polytechnical training is required for 12 out of 36 school hours a week. Highly skilled instructors come from nearby factories. Soviet education seems to be veering sharply away from the traditional European academics. Khrushchev himself has said that too many children, encouraged by their parents, have come to scorn manual labor. More and more boys and girls are graduating from high school, but universities have no room for all of them. What the state needs is more skilled blue-collar workers. Therefore, every student must be trained for a job in case he fails to qualify for a university. All students are required to take technical drawing. If these students are not admitted to a university, then they may work as junior editors in the foreign publishing house near the school or in the nearby metal plant. But at School 6, for some children, the road to higher education will end abruptly after the 8th grade. The failures will be left behind. The only paths open to them will be work or technical education.
Здравствуйте. We are in a technical school where we prepare the workers for electrical factories. Today we are studying the electronic tubes like your television set.
Abram Gloz is an electrical engineer, a graduate of an institute. He's been teaching for 20 years. Technical School 13 is a 2-year school attached to a nearby dynamo plant. The students will actually train at the plant in their 2nd year. After graduation, they will go to work in that plant. Their academic cupboard is quite bare. Some math, a bit of physics, modern history of the USSR, and for the remainder, physical culture and drafting. The main purpose of these technical schools is to train a skilled labor force. The incentive to students is money. Those who receive good marks earn stipends, as much as $45 a month during their 2nd year when they work at the dynamo plant. This is an attractive wage for Soviet youth, even if it is considerably less than what the state pays its adult workers. There are 450 boys and 25 girls in this school. Half the students go to evening classes to continue their general education. Many take correspondence courses. If they do well, they can take examinations for higher technical training, even the universities. Cosmonaut Gagarin came from such a school. The heroes in technical schools are outstanding student workers and graduates who have achieved success on the job. Knowledge is mass-produced in Soviet schools, but what of the children as human beings in the educational race? What of their individual talents and interests after school? In the Soviet, education does not end with the final school bell. The state also controls the extracurricular activities, and participation by all students is compulsory. In School 6, each student is required to join at least 2 clubs. The activities are varied, lessons are free, special teachers are professionals. parties are common at School 6. Where else could the older boys and girls meet to develop deeper relationships?
Mit der Banjo, Banjo Band, mit viel Schwung, seinen allerneuesten Dixie-Dixieland. Alle tanzen und begeistert rufen ihm die Leute zu. Bravo Bill, spiel noch einmal ein Du-Wacka-Du, Du-Du-Du. Alt und jung, jeder ist von Billys Banjo Band entzückt. Hey, hey, ho, sowas nennt man Talent. Und alle singen dazu, man spürt beim Du-Wacka-Du. So spielt nur Bill, Bill, Billys Banjo Band.
But not all extracurricular activities are in school. For the younger children who are pioneers, the Communist Party provides lavish facilities. There are 17 pioneer palaces in Moscow alone. Most Soviet children are eager to join the Young Pioneer Organization. Not all of them have the school grades required. If they show any signs of laziness, they are dropped. Step by step, the young pioneers are trained for the senior communist youth organizations. They are taught the pioneer laws, that a pioneer is not afraid of difficulties, that a pioneer keeps fit by exercising, and the Communist Party provides touches of luxury. A pioneer is supposed to be skilled in sports. He is told that he's living in a new era of springtime and happy childhood. The dome of the observatory is made of tin, but the Zeiss refractor telescope has a magnificent 5 and a motor-driven azimuth. The superior instruction provided in the pioneer palaces is also free. The chief of the plane model lab is an engineer designer at the Moscow Institute of Aviation. For young imaginations, model planes are but a prelude to spacecraft. Beyond a street in Moscow looms the moon. For more reflective minds, there are stamps of Gagarin and faraway countries which connect communism with the whole world. A pioneer is supposed to protect animals, birds, and greenery. He should know about the nation's 20-year plan for agriculture. He should be able to identify flowers and strange plants.
Очень красивый. Вот он у нас как раз зацветет ко дню рождения Ленина. А сейчас здесь большие бутовцы. Красуля. Вот самая наша любимая красуля.
A pioneer should live for art. And in art, one should be able to see and understand the beautiful. So said the great Stanislavski. He's at the Pioneer Palaces 4 days a week, drilling his special drama brigade.
Каждом вдохе.
Все ушли, и одного в доме заперли его. Мы оставили Трезора без присмотра, без надзора, и поэтому перепортил все, что мог. Разорвал на кукле платье, зайцу выдрал в шерсти клок, в коридор из-под кровати наши туфли уволок, под кровать загнал кота. Мы щенка в воде
This ballet mistress was a former ballerina in the Bolshoi Ballet. Soviet authorities say that retired Bolshoi dancers frequently become teachers. Her truly gifted pupils may go on to professional careers. The rest learn just for the fun of it. Political education is also extracurricular. In another room of the Pioneer Palace, the youngsters learn what Lenin told the Soviet youth to do. The pioneer should know the revolutionary songs. He should be aware of life in other communist countries. We shall make our forces 3 times as strong, says the pioneer. Our way is great and direct. We shall build communism. We shall live in communism. Every child who joins takes the pioneer oath to live, to study, to fight as the great Lenin willed. On the palace walls are pictures of pioneers who have honored their oath with their lives. Members of the Young Guards, heroes of the Soviet Union who died fighting the Germans. This dedication is a keystone of Soviet communist teaching.
One may talk a lot about the love for the country, but it can be displayed only in such moments as during the war, for instance, when one risked his life for the sake of the motherland.
И поэтому Александр Матросов, настоящий патриот и герой, он бросился вперед и своим телом закрыл амбразуру пулемета.
And so Alexander Matrosov, who was a real hero, he rushed forward and flung himself upon the opening of the through which a machine gun was shooting. And this decision to give their lives for the good of the country was thought over. This is a very well organized decision. It's not just a result of nervous shock.
Активность эта нужна для того, чтобы бороться за осуществление коммунистических принципов.
And this activeness is necessary to struggle for the construction of communism, to struggle for communist principles.
The technical school students also have extracurricular activities, and they are also compulsory. For them, the trade unions maintain houses of culture to relieve the drabness of their mass production training. House of Culture number 2 is in a fine old mansion in Moscow.
Язычок, быстрее, язычок. Так, прошу с самого начала все.
From one room to another, a dozen different activities all going on at the same time. The Soviets feel that the same hands that turn the lathes and grinding wheels must be afforded the opportunity to strum the strings of the classical guitar. A great Many of the students choose to learn the traditional ballets. The stage grows empty. The dancers will be back at their lathes early tomorrow morning.
Mr. Garanyan, you and your father and your son represent 3 generations. Together, your lives tell us something about life and education in Russia. Grandfather, did you fight in the revolution?
Вы принимали участие в революции?
Да.
Yes.
Will you tell us what he did?
Что вы делали?
Что вы делали?
Я был в Красной армии добровольно. He took part in the October Revolution, and then he was a volunteer to the Red Army.
Grandfather, what was education? What was going to school like in your days? Will you tell us about it?
Скажите, пожалуйста, несколько слов. Наша школа, конечно, была.
I had some mathematics and physics, but no polytechnic training. I left school in the 6th grade when my father died. I went to work as a messenger boy.
Да, это больше обучения, чем мы получали. Yes, they do it in a better way that we had it.
Я согласен с своим отцом.
I quite agree with my father.
Mr. Garanyan, do you think there's a connection between the attitude of parents to such things as books and good music and how well the children learn at school?
Yes, there is a great connection in this.
И музыка, и литература,
Music and literature and art
значительно помогают нам, родителей, воспитывать нас.
help to a very great extent to our parents to educate and to bring up our children, and not only to educate and bring them up,
И не только воспитывать, но и дружить с ними.
but it helps to be great friends with them.
Мы ходим с детьми вместе на симфонический концерт.
We go together with our children to symphonies and we go to theaters.
How do you feel about that, Elisha?
Я думаю, что папа считает правильно.
I think that my father was quite right about that.
The son obeys the father obeys the state. Dinner was kasha and meat. Mrs. Garanyan, before she was married, was an artist in the foreign publishing house. Now she does not work, which is unusual. Grandfather is retired on a pension. He helps with the shopping and the cooking.
21 или 22 числа. Обязательно пойдем в большой зал. Он будет играть. Интересно, как она играет. Я как раз за него, что участвует столько. Очень интересно.
Unless this is superior play acting, this is a tightly knit family, one living on a higher economic cultural level than the Soviet average, but tightly knit. The communists insist that if anything, they wish to strengthen the family, not destroy it. But there's a new direction in Soviet education, the boarding school, and it is hard to see how this new concept can do anything but weaken family ties. For in the boarding school, the child lives completely away from his family from Monday morning till Saturday noon. In this particular school, even the curriculum is oriented towards the future. The children begin Chinese in the 2nd grade. The child's guardians are his teachers, house mothers, and house fathers. They control his maximum development. They remove him from all extraneous influences and mold him into the ideal communist citizen. They condition him completely to the requirements of a collective society. There are 80 boarding schools, or internats as they are called in Moscow today. The communist leaders see in them the ideal school environment for the new Soviet man. By 1965, 2.5 million Soviet children will be housed in internats. In 20 years, they say, boarding schools will completely replace primary and secondary schools. So far, enrollment in these boarding schools is voluntary. Parents pay tuition. Many are said to be on the waiting lists. In a society where both parents generally work, perhaps this is understandable. Besides, it's cheap. Boarding school tuition is only 1/5 the cost of raising a child at home. It seems that even more than before, the path of Soviet man will be decided by the Communist Party. His character and morality as an adult will be predetermined in childhood. He will be the totally adjusted, collective individual. The state will be dominant in his consciousness, the family secondary. The question is, can they do it? If man is merely the sum of all his parts, then perhaps they can. But if in man there is a vital something, an elusive factor X which forever escapes planners, then the communists may find their success limited. Family may prove to be more than a mere matter of biology. Would Mr. and Mrs. Garanin be willing to hand over Nikita and Aloysia to substitute fathers and mothers? The Russian psychologist Pavlov theorized that animals are mere creatures of stimulus and response. The communists assert that man is only a higher animal. His behavior can be determined. And Lenin said, "Let me teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted." Even today, in their changing school system, the seed is being sown as early as possible, as here in the minds of these 10-year-olds taking the pioneer oath. I, a young pioneer of the Soviet Union, solemnly swear before my comrades to love my Soviet fatherland ardently, to live, to study, and to fight as the great Lenin willed and as the Communist Party teaches. At midnight in Moscow, the moon is over the Kremlin and Red Square is deserted, save for the guards near Lenin's tomb. Surely 3 weeks with Comrade student justify no more than mere impressions. Soviet children injected with the complex knowledge necessary for a complex world, taught foreign languages for the international spread of their faith, developed culturally, trained to obey, inspired to live or die for their vision of a new world order. One standard curriculum nationwide. A nation's total human resources cultivated to the maximum. 21% of the Soviet budget allocated to education. Is there an Achilles heel? The communists are training specialists who are weak in the humanities. There are internal stresses and strains, even self-criticism by Soviet educators. But it is not their weaknesses. It is their strengths that we are called upon to match. Will a rising living standard mellow the communist society? Can they achieve affluence and still keep their singleness of purpose? Who knows? One thing we know, the midnight oil burns in Moscow. We, the people of the free world, are the other team in the race. We must find a way within the framework of our freedom, fully use our human resources. We must question, examine, think. And in a democracy, this is a job not just for leaders, but for all of us. Even for lovers of freedom, Lenin has 3 words that make much sense. Study, study, study.